Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And Robert, good to see you. How you been?
Good. Hey, good, TJ. I just got back from Yosemite, so I threw a picture of Yosemite up behind me.
Very
Great,
nice.
great trip up there.
Very nice. It's beautiful. I've been there numerous times myself. It's wonderful every time. It's always
Oh yeah,
awe-inspiring.
definitely.
And but equally awe-inspiring is the Beatles. And we found out yesterday that four actually new advanced tracks
I know.
released for the Let It Be anniversary super deluxe edition. A few weeks ago, we got an alternate take from the rooftop concert.
Of Don't Let Me Down.
We got Don't Let Me Down. We got Let It Be. And we got For You Blue. This week here, we've received now, I'm going to read it off here. Get Back, Take 8. One After 909, Take 3. I Me Mine, the 1970 Glyn Johns mix. This, of course, would be from the Get Back album that never got released. And Across the Universe, the 2021 remix. And so let's share. We're going to share our thoughts on this today, everybody.
Yeah, very exciting. I mean, I know you actually reached out to me, and normally I do get press releases from the media because as everyone out there knows, I write for several publications, and I actually didn't get anything from the record label or anything. So I was actually, and I don't even think I caught it on Twitter, maybe because I was, up there in Yosemite and stuff. But I was very excited to get your text there, TJ.
Yeah, I notified you yesterday, and you were like, "Whoa, really? Wow, okay." And so you listened last night,
right?
And I listened too, and we both said, "Let's get together today here on Saturday morning and talk about it." And so let's start with Get Back, Take 8.
Okay.
And we don't have a lot of information yet as to the context of these alternate takes, except what we can hear. And so my initial thoughts, I thought this particular take of Get Back, in many respects, sounded almost, maybe not quite, it doesn't have the finished production on it yet, but it sounded almost as good as the version that we got on the album. And I thought the band was playing tight, playing very strong. There are a few noticeable differences with this version. Paul's spoken rap during the breakdown is a little bit different on this version. Not as good as what we got in the final mix. And of course, the track trails off at the end.
Yeah.
It also attempts an extended jam near the end. It attempts it. It doesn't quite get there, but it attempts to have a jam session. There's a cool little guitar line that gets played, and then it just kind of doesn't happen, and they just kind of trail off. But that idea for the extended jam had potential, I thought.
Yeah.
And
yeah, what's so amazing is even here, like you said, it's not the version that we've heard before, but you could just hear how great their chops were, their musicianship, how they could be loose, and yet it's very listenable, very exciting. Even like I said, that's one of the things about some of these alternate takes overall. Maybe I should be saving my comments for the end, but that's the thing that's so exciting, that even though some of these that we're hearing aren't the fully developed or fully realized versions we got at the end, you just realize the musical chemistry that these four guys had, how just off the charts it was, especially here when we're talking about toward the end of their career.
Yeah. I know there was always a certain amount of fear. I should say, as I've read articles, numerous articles, stories, interviews, it always feels like there was some trepidation that they felt about playing live again, because they hadn't played live in so long. And as a musician, I can kind of understand that. And not kind of, I can. If you haven't played live in a long time and you're going to do it after a long time, there's a lot of trepidation.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have to magnify that by the fact that they were the Beatles, that they were, in what was, and still is one of the most popular bands of all time. Even at that time, it was one of the most popular bands of all time. The amount of trepidation that must have made them feel, because when they were the touring band prior to their first album, playing Germany, 4 or 5 nights a week for more than 5 hours a day, sometimes
Right.
longer even,
Yeah.
you develop a tightness with each other. You just develop a tightness, when you play that much. I encourage any band to try to play cover gigs and get used to playing 3 to 4 nights a week. There's no work for that right now, unfortunately. But that was what made me ultra tight as a musician, was when I played 3 or 4 nights a week playing cover songs. It just happens, after if you do it long enough. But at any rate, I'm digressing here. The next track we have is the one after 909, take 3 is how it's billed.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I have a very warm spot for this song. I kind of revealed that to you yesterday. Back when I was in Urban Sprawl many years ago, we actually included a version of this on our first EP, and actually it was one of the first songs that I ever performed on that got any radio airplay. KCRW, which is an influential station here in Southern California. I believe the DJ's name was Andrew Trentacosta, and I may be butchering that, but he was kind enough to play that song a few times on the radio. I didn't even have to give him any payola or anything, so that was cool. He just actually liked it, I guess. So, but anyway, but I just have always loved this song ever since I can remember. And this is a very loose and rollicking, just a really fun version with, and I think you even pointed out, when we talked, just all kinds of Billy Preston keyboards on it that, and you might want to expand on that a little bit, TJ, but just a really great, fun version.
And before I comment, what blew me away was that until last night, when we had our conversation before doing this, I had no idea you had covered this song in another band.
Yeah.
And
and I'm going to have to dig out. I think I have a few CD copies somewhere. I'll have to dig one out and make sure I get that to you.
Yes, I want to hear this, definitely. And just in case anybody doesn't know, Urban Sprawl was the name of a band that you used to be in.
Right. Yeah. Back in the 90s. Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out real quick in case people were wondering, in case the name of that band flew past them real quick.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I was not aware that you had ever covered that song in another band, that you had released it, or that it had gotten radio airplay.
I know that was kind of fun at the time. Yeah. But it's just, and I think, and you might know too, remember, it was one of the first songs that John Lennon ever wrote. He wrote it, I think, back in the 50s, but then they obviously kind of coming full circle with Let It Be or the Get Back sessions. Mm-hmm. They performed it here, and it's nice to hear another version of it.
I was aware, from what I understand, One After 909 was written by John Lennon in his pre-Beatle days, I'm guessing, or right. Very early on, or maybe not pre-Beatle, and maybe not pre-Beatle, that's probably stretching it a bit, but just maybe during the very early days of the Beatles, during their early years, it was a song, and it was one that got set aside and that was brought back for Get Back, in the spirit of the idea of them getting back to their roots.
Exactly.
Playing live, which was the initial idea of that. And that's what the Glyn Johns Get Back album is supposed to be, is the Beatles completely live with absolutely no overdubs whatsoever.
Yeah.
And but I will just basically say yes, as kind of agree with your assessment there. What stuck out for me, just like you said earlier, was the very aggressive piano that was on this version that wasn't on the later versions. And I kind of wish that if the two could have been amalgamated together, that more aggressive piano, a lot of the little licks he's playing, Billy Preston, that could have been included in the final mix. If there been any way to do that, which I'm sure there wasn't.
I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, just fantastic. There's a spirit to this version. It doesn't diminish the power of the other version that we're very familiar with, but it's a new way of hearing the song, and that's great.
Yeah, I think I think the version we got on the Let It Be album, of course, is overall superior, in my opinion. Of course, it has the finished production. That's the other thing you have to keep remembering. The Glyn Johns mix. I'm sorry, not the Glyn Johns mix, but all of these alternate. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But all these alternate demos don't have any finished production on them, so they don't have that advantage. And speaking of the Glyn Johns mix, sorry, I'm having trouble saying that.
Yeah.
We have to talk about I Me Mine, which is the next track. Now, this is the Glyn Johns mix from the Get Back album, the unreleased Get Back album. And so let's talk about that. Again, just like with the version of the song "Get Back," but that alternate take, the band is playing really tight and strong on this one here. We don't have any finished production. The only thing that kind of like I felt wasn't quite up to snuff was, as I listened to it, I thought that George Harrison's vocals during the chorus were spot on. All the right power, all the right passion that was needed for the delivery. But I thought that the verse, when he's singing the verse, it sounded too small. It sounded too breathy. Mm-hmm. It felt like he wasn't, like the emotion, the fire wasn't there. Unlike what we heard in the final mix version of the song. But then I compared it back and forth A-B'd to the final released version. And I found that during the first verse, George's delivery wasn't all that different from this Glyn John mix version, the Glyn Johns mix version. I'm sorry, I keep having trouble pronouncing that.
Yeah.
But where I think the brain plays the trick on you is that on the second and third verses, George Harrison ups his vocal game on those next two verses and sings them a lot more powerfully and a lot more strong. So you remember the latter half versus the first half more.
Yeah.
So overall, it comes off as a stronger vocal performance. So that was something I realized as I compared them really closely together. Uh-huh. Also, of course, the Glyn Johns mix is only a minute and a half.
I think I looked at it as it's about 30 seconds shorter or so than the final version that we're all familiar with. So I think what we're hearing here is, like you're saying, the song is pretty much intact as far as its mood and kind of the dynamics, but it wasn't quite finished yet. Whereas what we got, eventually was the finished version. But I think it's nice to have this version. Is all I might add.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm certainly not going to refuse an alternate version of any Beatle track.
Yeah.
And yeah, this one's a minute and 46 seconds. The version that was on the final album was 2 minutes and 25 seconds.
Right. Exactly. That's right.
So it is a shorter version. It's lacking one verse, and of course, it has all the finished production, of the final album. Whereas this one, like I said, whenever we discuss the Glyn Johns mix for the Get Back album that never saw the light of day, which will see the light of day if you buy the Super Deluxe set, whenever we discuss it, it was never finished.
Yeah.
He never got to finish it. So always, any criticisms, you have to temper it with that thought in mind. Aside from that, though, I thought, the band played strong. Just the vocal delivery on the verses, not quite as strong as what we got on the final version. I'm glad, given the choice I'm glad to have both, but given the choice between the two, I'm glad that this version never made it to the completed album.
I agree.
If nothing else, because of the extra verse. Right, and exactly. George's vocal delivery is stronger too.
Yeah. It's a great song. Just overall, I might say it's a fantastic song. It's a song that's kind of under the radar. Not everyone, Beatles fans have, but it's one of these great songs that whenever it comes on, like the Beatles channel on Sirius or something, I'm always reminded, God, George Harrison was such a great talent around this time doing such great songs.
Yeah. It's everything. It's a very dark, powerful song.
Yeah.
And there is this real just sense of menace to it as well.
Yeah.
That I really like.
But there's also a sense of melancholy as well. It's very interesting. It's just a great song, Yeah.
Melancholy is not something I felt with this song, but more power to you.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. It's a very underrated Beatles song, one that gets kind of overlooked oftentimes.
Yeah.
In their catalog.
I think especially when you're talking about his late career, people think of Here Comes the Sun or something. And I think that this song, unfortunately, is overlooked sometimes. And I think it is a fantastic song.
I agree. So now, finally, of course, we have Across the Universe 2021 remix.
Right.
And of course, this is the remix by Giles Martin and engineer Sam O'Kell. And I took the lead this time. Do you want to opine first?
Well, what I want to generally say is I've never heard the song sound as great as I heard this on this version. I mean, I've always loved the song. I know there's been a couple different versions that we've heard,
Mhm.
but and I think the way I explained it or thought about it was that it's in terms of John Lennon's vocals sound really. I mean, they've always sounded amazing on it, but they're even more vivid here than I've
Mhm.
ever heard them before. And in terms of the acoustic guitar, it's almost like somebody changed the guitar strings. There's a brightness
Mhm.
that I'm hearing now that I haven't previously. Maybe it was a little bit more dull before, but it's like somebody just brightened the acoustic guitar and it just pops out a little bit more, but it doesn't pop out any way that would ruin the mood or the all the other things that we're hearing in the song. But I think that this is superior to anything I've ever heard in terms of this song.
I would agree with you. Yes. And I like your analogy about changing the guitar strings. There's suddenly this crispness when you put on a brand new set of guitar strings. That's why very oftentimes, and I've heard recording engineers tell, the guitarist and the bassist, make sure you change your strings before you come in. Make
Right.
sure you've got it, and make sure you break them in too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Maybe have
but
them on there 2 days or something.
exactly, yeah, yeah, break them in too, so you don't have to keep tuning.
Yeah.
But I'll be very, very blunt about this remix of this track. I was blown away. I was very shocked because when I first started to hear it, I thought I was hearing an alternate take of the song because it sounded so different to my ears. And then the other background instruments came in, the strings, George Harrison on the tambura, if I pronounced that correctly,
Yeah.
the choir. And I felt like I was hearing it for the first time. It's to me amazing how well Giles Martin and engineer Sam O'Kell, I hope I say his name right,
Yeah.
how well they brought out those background instruments without them overpowering the primary lead vocal or acoustic guitar. And I heard notes I'd never heard before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's melodies to the string instruments that I was probably only subconsciously aware of. That is like, oh wow, I can really make out distinctly the notes that the strings are playing. I was just really knocked out by this, and I agree with you. This is the best version I've heard.
Yeah.
Of this
Yeah.
track. I was really knocked out by it.
Yeah, it's kind of like we said before with some of these kind of things on some of the other deluxe reissues. A lot of times you almost feel like you're hearing these songs for the first time. I mean, you're very familiar with them, but again, like you said, you're hearing something you haven't heard before, and you're hearing it in a very good way because of the care and kind of the expertise in going into these remixes. But yeah, very exciting.
Absolutely. So, anyways, those are the 4 new advanced tracks, and I'm more excited than ever for to get my copy. At this point now, you've heard what we think. Let us know what you think, and leave us a comment. And as always, if you like what we do here and you want to see more videos, please click like, click subscribe, smash the bell notification icon. And if you'd like to help us make more videos, please consider going to the Patreon page, patreon.com/TJR the original. If you can't be a Patreon supporter, you can show your support by just clicking that like button, leaving a comment, and sharing these videos on your social media. Robert, thank you for joining me today. Glad to have you back here in Southern California again, too. Anyways, though, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you all stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.